Thank you very much. Minister, I have an amendment within this grouping, but first of all I would like to just completely agree with the points made by Senator Doherty, and that is, it is the nub, and it remains the nub, Minister, because you've described a process that you're putting in place, but there is also a process of that data protection impact assessment, and in that you need to look to how you, as the controller, not the Commission, but you will deal with the documents that belong to you and are not belong to you because the information in them belongs to the persons, but those documents over which you are the data controller, not the Commission, and the rationale in terms of the impact on the process of or even the reporting of the Commission will have passed and will not be relevant after that point on the 28th of February. So I would just maybe, you had mentioned a process, but I think we might need to clarify that that will involve a DPIA and that there will be the consultation will be feeding into a data protection impact assessment. But also the really crucial thing is, and I do have to, and I'm trying not to be adversarial, and I don't seek to embarrass the Minister or anybody else, but we've had this idea of fear being created and so forth. It was created by the use of the language of sealing. And the language of sealing was used by the government, and I actually have multiple instances of that. And yes, the language was saying it's not sealing under this Act with this kind of caveat, it's sealed under the 2004 Act and we're trying to get around that. But that language of sealing was used. And yes, I agree with it is not being sealed under this Act, and it is not sealed under the 2004 Act, even as amended. It is not. These files, and bear in mind they will become an archive, but right now they are actually just a set of documents, a set of relevant records, a database and so forth. All of those documents, they are not under seal. The only, and as Senator Doherty pointed out, it is weak, and it was telling that the language was used again in terms of a strong exemption. It is not an exemption. It is not, as was quoted, I think, it is not a prohibition. It is a restriction subject to very, very tight caveats. So actually the tightness is on it. If it was a blanket provision or a blanket measure, then that section 39 would be illegal. It would be struck down as being incompatible with our laws, because it is, and the case law that I think Senator Siri Carney referred to as well has shown increasingly, you cannot have a blanket provision, you cannot have a blanket measure. That is not allowable or acceptable if that section 39 were to operate in any sense as a seal, as a prohibition, as an exemption. It would not be eligible law. If it is to serve as a balancing act, as described, then it needs to be subject to appropriate balances and checks. And again, Minister, I would point out that the circumstances will have significantly changed. As Senator Doherty pointed out, there will no longer be a commission in play in relation to this issue. That commission will be concluded. Moreover, given the other amendments, and these are the ones in this section really, that idea that which you've acknowledged and you've engaged, and I do want to really acknowledge that you positively engaged with that debate between myself and Senator McDougall and others in the last session, and many others who spoke on that, around how do we appropriately reflect the wishes and the diverse wishes of those who are engaging with the confidential committee, because you have putting in place in respect of redaction. The fact is, there will have been an action which asserts those rights of persons. They will have been able to redact themselves from those documents. So again, the balance will certainly shift where in that context, when the Commission has finished its work, when persons who have a particular wish to be confidential have had themselves redacted from the documents, it will be extraordinarily difficult, Minister, to say that giving somebody their personal information about their family or themselves or their early life or their health or their name when they were born, whatever it is, that those pieces of information are somehow going to damage the operation of future commission. I think it will be an extremely difficult thing to prove, but I don't want us, nobody wants us proving it in court. And that is the key, Minister. So you've said that, you recognise yourself as the data controller, you're wrestling with this AG list. It is you who is the data controller. It is not the AG. And the AG can give advice. That advice can be around the constitutionality, or it could be advice that says this may be challenged. If it's constitutionality, that is one issue, which it doesn't actually arise here. If it is around that may be challenged, that is a different piece. But Minister, you do need to really look and to robustly think. And I believe that you will end up in a different situation in terms of that original advice. But I wish that you had taken the step now. And in fact, the amendment from Senator Boylan that she spoke to, Amendment 11, I mean, it's better than my amendments in this in terms of it's really clear. It was a chance for you, much as in 2018, the then government chose to amend the 2004 Act, you could similarly, in 2020, have made a decision around what you wanted to apply. Completely free to do so. There was nothing, if the Section 39 dealt with the administration of requests and so forth and Article 15 rights, there's nothing to stop you from from choosing to not apply Section 39 in respect of this specific commission. That could have been legislatively done, and it could still be done if you accept Amendment 11. But certainly, I think instead, Minister, you will end up doing it with a slightly more difficult process. But I hope so I'd just like you to be a little bit stronger and clearer around the fact that you are not going to be giving blanket provision, blanket replies to persons who make subject access requests, because that is a real concern. Again,